Fog, thick and cold as the breath of an ice monster, enveloped Route 66. Not just any ordinary fog, but something else. Something that took smells, sounds, even memories with it. It was the ghost trail, and the locals whispered about it as if it were cursed. They said it was haunted by the ghosts of long-dead drivers, their souls trapped in an eternal circle demanding sacrifice. Jack, an ex-cop with faded eyes and a heart hardened by what he'd seen, was given a strange assignment: to find his missing brother Tom, an amateur mechanic who disappeared weeks ago while on a quest to find the legendary Black Turtle, an old, long-forgotten car mentioned only in the oldest, nearly forgotten records of the track's history. Tom, always in love with machinery, believed that the Black Turtle hid the secret of the eternal road, or perhaps the key to its curse. Jack, with skepticism in his soul but inexplicable hope in his heart, refused to believe in myths. But Tom's story frightened him. Traveling the ghost trail was like a descent into hell. The fog, as if alive, turned the scenery into shimmering ghosts. The narrow road, winding through lifeless plains and abandoned towns, seemed to suck the last vestiges of warmth and reason out of Jack. Every turn, every shadow was permeated with cold. Jack could feel the stairs, invisible but palpable. He heard muffled groans and creaks, as if invisible hands were tearing at the cars and roads. The cars seemed to freeze on the side of the road, their engines silent, as if buried underground. In every abandoned hotel, in every dilapidated store, Jack saw echoes of past tragedies. Photographs of distorted faces, scraps of old newspapers describing horrible accidents. At every turn, like ghosts, wandered stories of lives lost, of people trapped on the eternal road. Night, separating Jack and his car from the others, covered the highway. The fog grew thicker with each kilometer. The headlights shook as if in a seizure, reflecting in the fog's bottomless eyes. Several times Jack thought he saw silhouettes of cars, but they vanished into thin air like ghosts. Jack drove without knowing where he was going, like he was floating on a river that had no beginning or end. His thoughts were jumbled with myths, with stories, with doubts. He was trying to find Tom, but perhaps not just Tom. In the back of his mind, he was searching for the answer to the question: was this curse true or just a fiction? Finally, Jack reached the place where, according to the legends, the Black Turtle was supposed to stand. There on the curb, covered with a layer of congealed blood, stood a car as black as pitch, unharmed, as if ripped out of time. But next to it, chained to it, lay the skeletons. Not people, but machines. Inside the Black Turtle, Jack found Tom's journal. The entries weren't about the journey or the machines. It was a diary about the struggle, about the path to salvation. Tom, it turns out, wasn't just looking for a mystery. He was looking for a way to stop the track, to stop the eternal cycle, to stop the endless curse that had taken the lives of so many. Jack realized he hadn't just found his brother. He had found the key to stopping death. But how? The answer was in the last note written in blood. Tom was stuck in this cycle. To break out, he had to do something Jack could never imagine. He had to become part of this circle, become a ghost, which is what actually happened. Jack, leaving his car, became part of the road. He dissolved into the fog, into that cursed path, but no longer as a man, but as part of the endless circle of the ghost trail, condemning himself to an eternal journey. Forgetting that he had once been human, he became part of something he wanted to avoid. The ghost track fell silent. The fog dissipated and a silence hung over it, cold and empty. Only the black turtle remained on the road, and on it the imprint of hands that could now never leave it again. The cold was chilling to the bone. Jack, his whole body shivering, couldn't tell where reality ended and hallucinations began. The world seemed to be distorted into murky blue-white streaks. He could feel his limbs turning into ice blocks. In this chute, in this tomb of snow and ice, he saw what may or may not have been. In front of him, as if molded out of freakish ice, stood Thomas, frozen, with an unnatural silence on his face. Near him, in the same icy, petrified state, lay the other drivers, frozen in the last moment of their lives, or not lives, but freezing. But it was not only a horrible sight. At the edge of consciousness, in the murky shroud of cold, Jack remembered a sturdy case, at the bottom of which lay tools, a lighter, wrappers of paraffin, bits of wood. Consciousness, like a final tug, reminded him of them. He had, as if by some miracle, found the strength to shovel the snow, find the wreckage of the wrecked car, and start a fire. It was more than just warmth. It was hope. It was light. The flames danced beneath the shroud of snow, casting reflections on his face. The heat, though faint, warmed him, slowly but surely bringing him back to life. He was able to retrieve a spare lantern from his frozen pocket, and by its light he discerned a device for starting a fire. He had not much left, with difficulty, but he was able to start the fire. The fire, like a saving sign, distracted him from his terror and fainting. It became his only support. Using the devices to create heat, he focused on keeping himself alive. He gathered all his strength, prepared his tools, and began to dig his way out. For days and nights, in an agonizing struggle against the cold, he fought his way through the icy captivity. Finally, he saw the dim light of the frozen rocks. He climbed out of the freezing fog. What was it? Was this not a dream at all? Jack got out of the car and shook off the dust and fatigue. There were tattered sheets of paper, written in uneven, scrawled handwriting. The writings spoke of witchcraft, of a curse upon this stretch of road. They sounded frightening. Drivers fall into a liturgical sleep, and the weak of spirit perish. His heart beat faster. He began to study the records, trying to figure out what had happened. On one page, among the intricate symbols, he saw mention of a legend about a poor girl tricked by a trucker. The story was tragic. The girl, a deceived bride betrayed by her favorite trucker, had sunk into despair. Grief broke her, and seeking solace and revenge, she turned to the dark forces. Records described how she, the deceived bride, cursed a stretch of highway, vowing eternal vengeance on anyone who traveled it. Now, drivers falling into the trap would fall into slumber, or, if they were weak in spirit, perish. Exhausted, lost souls, the curse of the deceived bride. Jack thought about it. The legend, terrible and true, seemed to leap out of those tattered papers. He realized it wasn't just about the curse, it was about people's misfortune. Misfortune, deceived hopes, pain, all of it had woven itself into something terrible that now punished all who passed through. Jack's task was now clear: to find a way to break the curse, free the sufferers, and restore justice. He realized that he had a difficult road ahead of him. The path to the solution was dangerous, and the solution was not easy. With trembling hands, Jack paged through the yellowed pages of the diary he'd found at the Black Turtle. His brother's last entry read, "The curse will only be broken at the grave of the deceived bride, but the way there is through her wrath. At dawn, Jack set off toward the abandoned cemetery at the edge of the highway. With each step, the fog thickened, turning into a viscous shroud. Suddenly, the road disappeared underfoot, leaving only quicksand. Voices whispered, "You betrayed them too." Memories of Jack's fallen partners. Shadows grabbed his legs, leaving bruises in the shape of women's fingerprints. At a dilapidated chapel, Jack met a reclusive priest. The old man knew the legend. You will find the grave by a rusty cross with a broken chain. But first, you must go through its pain. Hallway of mirrors. In the broken mirrors, Jack saw his betrayals. A jilted fiancée, a friend left for dead. On the altar were the key to the grave and a photo of Tom. Had to leave his brother behind. Blood on the stones. To open the slab, Jack cut his palm open. The drops formed an S, the bride's name, Sarah. At the grave, Jack fell to his knees. "Forgive us, all those who deceived you." The response was a swirl of rose petals. The cross split open, letting the light out. The inscription on the slab bled. "Freedom is in the repentance of the living." Sarah's voice whispered, "You bore their guilt. Now they sleep. Forgive us, all those who deceived you." The response was a swirl of rose petals. The cross split open, releasing the light. The inscription on the slab bled, "Freedom is in the repentance of the living." Sarah's voice whispered, "You bore their guilt. Now they sleep." In the morning, Route 66 was empty. The fog had cleared, leaving roses on the side of the road, where debris used to lie. The black turtle, now just a rusty hulk. In the cabin, Tom's journal with a new entry. "Thanks, brother." Jack was the first survivor of the ghost trail, but at midnight he could still hear the buzzing and knew that damnation awaited the next sinner.